In this series, Herd Strategies President Denise Herd connects with industry leaders and community members to discuss the challenges they face within their fields. Join us bi-weekly to learn all about how they see us.
Well, hello there. How's everyone doing? My name's Denise Herd, and I want to welcome you back to another episode of How They See Us. If you're tuning in for the first time, it's so great to see you. Thank you for joining us. And if you've been following us, welcome back. Um, I love this conversation, this How They See Us, because it gives us an opportunity to have conversations with people in an array of business areas, an array of ways that they are servicing our communities and residents in our communities, and just improving the quality of lives of those around our communities. So I thank you for joining us, and I'm so glad that you all can make it. So many of you know October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and it's a very important topic and one that we need to talk about more and talk about more transparently, and also looking at this topic through an array of lenses. And according to the Institute for Cancer Research, breastfeeding can help reduce the risk of breast cancer in women and in children. And so this month, when the team was talking about how could we do something to increase awareness and really looking at this topic through lenses that may be not as bright or as at the forefront as some other topics about around breast cancer are, we thought, let's talk to an individual who is in a sector of our community that does focus on uh, breasts and things that we as women do with our breasts, particularly with our children, and how that can help us address this issue of breast cancer. So I am going to bring a friend of mine who I've known for many, many years by the name of Lisa Diamond into the conversation. Hello, Lisa.
Hello, Denise. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining me. I think this is so cool to talk to one of my friends who's taken a non traditional pathway to address issues impacting women's health and allowing us to have this conversation about a topic that, has a lot of, pros and concerns and confusions and disparities and all kinds of hoo-ha around it, and really talk about it in a candid way. So thank you so much for joining me. And could you tell us a little bit about yourself and what it is you do?
Sure. So I am Lisa Diamond. I am a certified lactation specialist. I am a mother. I am a massage therapist. I love to feed people. So I enjoy an array of um, I'm a Renaissance woman in terms of
Sure.
how I'm able to support women in the community, how I'm able to shape lives in a positive way.
Mhm.
But here today, I will draw on my more than 12 years experience with the Marion County WIC breastfeeding program. I'm no longer associated with, but the information and the training, the evidence-based information and support that I
Mhm.
provide in the community is still rich and valuable. So what I love to do is find women or have family or friends approach me saying, hey, I have my niece, my daughter, they're having a baby. Can you give us any information?
Mhm.
I like to be a part of changing the narrative around breastfeeding,
Mhm.
around formulating a community where women can find support that's not necessarily family, and it's also outside of the medical
Mhm.
community where we seem to not really get a lot of support, or we're not believed very much as Black women.
Mhm.
So in this in this way, I'm able to be more approachable and
Mhm.
find that women receive the information and trust it. So
Mhm.
I've enjoyed this career. So I also breastfed my three
You
sons,
did. You
and
did. I
um,
remember. I remember.
so Yeah, so it's been something really rewarding, and it
Mhm,
transcends all careers. Whether you're a doctor, whether you're a
mhm,
teacher, even
mhm,
as a lactation specialist, you may
mhm,
still need support.
mhm,
So it's good to be able to meet women where they are, and so that's what I'm most
mhm.
proud of.
So I'm gonna take a step back because at the beginning you said that you were a Renaissance woman, and being a lactation specialist is not like something you major in. It's not like something you go to college and you get a degree in and you say, that's what I'm going to study, that's what I'm going to pursue. I would think that you happen to fall into this particular pathway. And so, can you tell us a little bit about what led you here and what inspired you to pursue a career as a lactation specialist?
Okay, so that's a great question. I was breastfed, as I mentioned before, and my mother always had the information. She was very pro breastfeeding growing up in the 60s. In fact, in Indianapolis, as a Black mother, she was a La Leche League leader. So that kind of set the groundwork for me to just always consider breastfeeding whenever I gave birth to children. And so from that point, when I had my sons, I never doubted that I
Mhm,
could provide breast milk for my
mhm,
babies and that I wouldn't be successful. I always knew that it was something that I could do.
mhm,
Um, and a mutual friend of ours contacted me because she had a child after my children.
mhm,
And she was like, "How did you do it? How can you do it? Can you help me?" So, by word of mouth, I was always encouraged to share what
mhm,
I knew about breastfeeding.
mhm,
Fast forward to a colleague saying, "Hey, there's a position open for a breastfeeding peer counselor at the health department." I, at that time, did not know that there was such a thing. And
wow.
so, I applied for the position, um, learned a lot through accepting that role as a breastfeeding peer counselor, which I did for about 7 years, where I supported moms through the health department's program for breastfeeding. And then as I learned more evidence based information and in the clinical setting, absolutely supported lots of moms through breastfeeding education classes.
Mhm,
Um, I realized that I had a knack or a passion for
mhm,
this. It went over very well with
mhm,
the mothers or mothers to be or
mhm,
families that I was supporting. And
mhm,
so I just stuck with it. I love it. It's something
mhm,
that I've embraced wholeheartedly.
mhm,
So I've done this for the past 12 years professionally,
mhm.
but for the past 20 plus years
Uh,
um, with friends and family. I'm also a grandmother, so my
mhm,
grandchildren were also breastfed by their mothers, and so
mhm.
it's been really rewarding.
Generational. That's
Yeah,
amazing because, what you're doing, that's not the norm. And so I would really like to talk to you about the disparities that exist where breastfeeding is concerned. And,
right.
talk a little bit about that and where you see them and where the opportunities lie because, it takes a village. And so,
Yes.
you have seen the rewards of breastfeeding. So let's talk a bit about those disparities.
A lot of the health disparities stem from systemic racism
Mhm.
within the healthcare setting.
Mhm. Mhm.
We know for a fact that Black women are reported, there's data indicating that Black women are less likely to breastfeed, um, that we also aren't believed when we are in pain. Our
Mhm.
labor and deliveries haven't been necessarily as respected as other
Mhm.
races and cultures, so that
Mhm.
we're
Mhm.
faster to have a C-section. All of
Mhm.
these all
Mhm.
of these things lead us to not really thrive and invest in
Mhm.
our health care. We're more put off than willing to, ask questions, educate ourselves about how to do this successfully. So some of the disparities are, um, like I said, offering C-sections before natural deliveries. We don't see many people in the healthcare field who look like us.
Yeah.
So birth doulas, postpartum doulas, OBs, um, lactation consultants, when they look like us, that welcomes us. And it's more of a welcoming committee, if you will, for
Mm-hmm.
this baby who will be a part of our family.
Mm-hmm.
So that is, I think, primarily the disconnect for us is that we don't feel welcomed. We're often scrutinized, but not treated well or equally as other women in this position.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the disparities are just that. We don't get the education, we don't get the support, but luckily that narrative is changing.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So a lot of it is education. A lot of it is looking at how do we address those social determinants of health. You know,
Yes.
all those things that go into playing that contribute to someone having healthy options and making healthy decisions from cradle to the grave.
Right, right. So a lot that happens with breastfeeding success often has nothing to do with baby actually latching to
Mm-hmm.
breast. It has to deal with the entire woman, her life,
Mm-hmm.
whether her housing is secure, whether she feels that her
Mm-hmm.
relationship can withstand
Mm-hmm.
this new change. Sometimes women aren't in a
Mm-hmm.
relationship that
Mm-hmm.
is supportive of even having
Mm-hmm.
the baby. They may not be excited about it,
Right,
or
right,
um, they might not be, they might live in a food desert, or we take for
right.
granted that, everyone has a nursery that's set up, that everyone is
Mm-hmm.
overjoyed. However,
Mm-hmm.
there are a lot of components that go into making a woman feel confident and
Right.
edified so that she can take the time to
Mm-hmm.
breastfeed.
Yeah, it's all
So,
those. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, we're just looking at the transpersonal
Right,
experience, and including the cultural and spiritual
right,
dynamics that might be important and to
right,
that woman, so that can give
right,
her confidence in order to
right.
breastfeed successfully.
So it's everything that takes place outside of that hospital or that clinician's office or that
Yes.
doctor's office. It's everything from the minute, that baby is born in whatever environment that baby is born into, whether it be traditional in a medical facility or non-traditional in some sort of other birthing facility.
Sure.
Everything that takes place outside of like a doctor's office is so critical in
Hmm.
a woman being able to choose the pathway and of breastfeeding and things that will help her along the way.
Sure. She needs to feel confident
Right.
and that she's not doing it alone. I know just from personal experience, even though women are giving birth every minute of the day globally, when it is your experience, you
Mhm.
feel like you're alone. And so
Mhm.
you want to be able to um, gauge what
Mhm.
success looks like. You want
Mhm.
to be able to ask questions from someone
Mhm.
about what's happening and not feel like you're going to fail at
Yeah.
something that's really important
Yeah.
to you.
And
So getting to the heart of the matter is,
mhm.
education prenatally. Women need to know their options. They
Mhm.
need to know that there are
Mhm.
midwives, there are
Right.
doulas, that they can um, voice their opinion about what they would like to have happen
Mhm.
during labor and delivery. They
Mhm.
want to have options, or they need to know that they have a choice about who will be present. Sometimes having your mother in law
Mhm.
in there in the labor and delivery room while you're giving birth, it's not great.
Mhm.
You need to have people who are focused
Support.
on you as a
Mhm.
mother and
Mhm.
that experience, you and that
Mhm.
baby. It is personal, it is important. And when women don't know that they have that type of advocacy.
Mm-hmm.
We really need to bring that more to the forefront.
That
We've,
makes that
you
makes
know,
sense.
it makes more sense because this is a
Mm-hmm.
very important thing. And maternal mortality rates for Black women are, there's such a huge disparity
Mm-hmm.
between other
Mm-hmm.
races.
Mm-hmm.
And so we need to figure out why that is.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the answers lie in why we are seeing the deaths of
Mm-hmm.
educated Black women who have insurance. They have a higher chance of dying during childbirth than a high school an uneducated white woman who doesn't have insurance.
Mm-hmm.
That disparity is systemic. There has
Mm-hmm.
to be something else
Mm-hmm.
that that helps us.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to figure out
Mm-hmm.
how that can happen, and so that happens through policy, advocacy,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
ownership of where you are in your life.
Right. So I want to shift us a little bit because, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, as we've said. And so, breastfeeding is something we do with our breasts. But, women are being diagnosed with breast cancer in high rates,
Yes.
higher than ever before. And so my question, I have a couple questions where this topic is concerned, but can a woman breastfeed after being diagnosed with breast cancer?
So, just to be clear, that is a question that is really outside of my scope of
Got it.
practice,
Okay.
but I have supported women who, once cleared by their physician
Mhm,
um, after treatment, who
mhm,
possibly had a lumpectomy or
mhm,
a mastectomy, um, they, on their unaffected breast, they were
mhm.
still able
Able
to
to?
successfully
Okay.
breastfeed. You know,
That's
when
awesome.
yeah, so it is possible. I won't say that it is always possible, but I have seen it
Mhm.
and I know it to be true.
And this is why working with your and first of all, let's take a step back from that. Having a good support system
Yeah.
because women have to help women. And so I do want to ask you about that. How can others, support women on her breast cancer journey? But, on that journey, if a woman does find herself, in a situation where she has breast cancer and has one remaining healthy breast that a child could feed from, it's that village in having those candid conversations with her physician that will
Yes.
can help take her down that path.
Sure. There are breast cancer survivor support groups, and then
Mm,
there are breastfeeding support groups. There are coalitions like the Indiana Black Breastfeeding Coalition that can speak solely to the
mhm,
breastfeeding aspect.
mhm,
Now, there's a different type of support that is required for for a woman who's experienced breast cancer.
mhm.
So those two might commingle within that
Coalesce.
person.
Mhm,
However,
mhm,
she would probably do best to draw from support
mhm,
groups that
mhm,
specify in those two areas. I think family support is really important.
mhm,
Peer support is very important. A lot of times, women don't know who to reach out to, and
mhm,
those support groups can invite conversations so
mhm,
that mothers can have,
mhm,
or breastfeeding parents can have the support and the information and the education made available to them.
mhm,
So I think one thing that we do know is the support of your significant other is
mhm,
really important. What we are finding with breastfeeding is that if the father of the baby or the other parent does not support breastfeeding, nine times
mhm,
out of 10, the mothers will not continue.
mhm,
So support
mhm,
is really monumental. It's very integral to the life of the mom and the baby. So we really need to surround ourselves. I have
Mhm.
I have a concept that I'm working with called Baby Breast in You, and with this, a mother can make a declaration at her baby shower that she intends to breastfeed, so that the people
Mm,
surrounding her, her sorority sisters, her nieces, her
mhm,
grandmother, her aunt, or the
mhm,
child's father can all hear this declaration and learn how they can best support. Now, if a mom is exhausted and she's breastfeeding, the best solution is not to offer formula. It is to find a way so that you can support her and so that she can get rest and then be prepared
mhm,
to rest with the baby and then breastfeed. We want to keep her encouraged and not offer interventions
mhm,
into
mhm,
that get in the way of breastfeeding. But
mhm.
to your point about breast cancer, we do know that breastfeeding, if a woman breastfeeds for at least 6 months,
Yeah.
we've seen a decrease in the risks of
Yes.
the occurrence of reproductive cancers, breast cancer specifically,
Yeah.
and ovarian cancer. So,
I saw that. I saw that in the research that after 12 months, the reduction is about 4%. Is it
no,
4?
I mean, if you breastfeed for 6 months, it can be as low as the decrease can be like 51%.
Okay.
It is a
Significant.
significant
Yes.
um,
Yes.
plus, and so we need to get moms interested. I
Mm,
think the narrative has shifted. I mean,
mhm,
I see more representation here. We have lots of IBCLCs, lactation consultants. We have private practice. Sierra Woods was just mentioned in Essence magazine as one
mhm,
of our local breastfeeding support lactation consultant. She's an RN and she has Melamama, where you can get breastfeeding support. So we're seeing the possibilities. We are no longer talking about if we could just get a few more doulas, or if there was a midwife, or if there was, an OB. We have those people in place. It's the system that needs to shift, and we also need to work
mhm,
outside of what has traditionally been a barrier to
mhm,
Black women receiving the help and the support that they need.
mhm. That makes sense. That makes
Yes,
perfect sense.
yes.
So, Lisa, and any as we round things out, I hate to like in this conversation, it went so quickly, but I would love if there's anything else you would like to share with us about this topic as, October being, Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And I wanted to have this conversation with you
Yeah.
because, October seems to be the month where everyone's focused on second base, and and so
What?
we had this opportunity to talk about second base and all that goes with that. I really wanted to have this conversation about the health of our breasts and things we, do with our breasts as women and why taking care of our breasts was so important because we need to be able to feed our babies. So, as
Right.
we round this conversation out, is there anything else that you can share with us? Resources, things we should know or not be afraid of. I would love to give you that opportunity to share.
Okay, I appreciate that. I think we should absolutely take advantage of any coalitions like the Indiana Black Breastfeeding Coalition, the Minority Health Coalition. They all have information around breastfeeding and and resources. Um, there are other entities, programs, breastfeeding programs that are important for women to access and not be afraid to ask questions. Agency is really important for a woman, especially when you're giving birth. You're doing something so powerful that
Mhm,
you need to be as informed as possible. And
mhm,
with breast cancer being as prevalent as it is, screenings need to be more
mhm,
accessible for women. So if they can
mhm,
take advantage of health screenings, to if there is any issue, to be diagnosed early. So they can have better health outcomes, and to
Mhm,
not be afraid to get your mammograms, to
mhm,
not be afraid to do self-examinations. It's
mhm,
really important to be in touch with your body. These
mhm.
are, this is like our breastplate,
Right,
literally. It
right,
covers our hearts, and
right.
we are very important to the continuation of this world, to our
Mhm,
society. So we want babies to thrive. We want women to thrive, and
absolutely.
we want breastfeeding. We want better health
Mhm,
outcomes. We do want this. It's not like
mhm,
we're choosing to ignore signs
mhm,
or stick our head in the sand or not
mhm,
um, see to our health.
mhm,
So we really need to just have more um, advocacy and agency
mhm,
to do what it takes.
mhm,
We're out here.
mhm,
So if
mhm,
you'd like to contact me, I'd be glad to um, offer my number, to give a resource list, and contact people who can really help you
mhm,
or help
mhm.
mothers in the community with their questions and direct them in the right way. In the right way.
We would love to have that, and we will share that on our platforms to make sure that people can have access to that information, because if
Yes.
we don't share the information, then we're contributing to the disparity issues that are existing around this particular topic. I really thank you for joining us today. I just think that it's so important for us to talk about our breasts and, breastfeeding, because breast is something that everyone has. Everyone is born
Yes.
with them, whether you're male or female.
Yes.
Breast cancer doesn't only impact women, it impacts men too.
Right.
Breastfeeding is something that, many women have the ability to do and the desire to do, but may not have the knowledge to do. And when
Right.
we have knowledge, we have power. And when we
Yeah.
have power, we can make change. So that's
Absolutely.
why conversations like this are so important. It's also important, in my opinion, and I think you'll agree with this as well, that we reduce the stigmas associated with breastfeeding,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
and feeding, because we're feeding a life. That's a life that you're giving food to. And so when you think about that and then think about the health benefits that exist, why wouldn't we allow a woman to breastfeed her child, so that the child can win and the mother can win in the long run?
And that I want to just to piggyback on that point. So
Please.
one of the barriers to breastfeeding could be found on a cellular level. Historically, Black mothers or Black women were wet nurses during
Yes.
slavery. And
Right.
so that stigma of being like the absolute provider for the life elixir
Mhm.
for this entire country's foundation
Mhm.
to now not having um, that same we don't have the desire a lot of times to breastfeed because it's coming from a traumatic history. But
Mhm.
what we know
Mhm.
now is that it is beneficial for us. We need to invest that for our children so that our
Mhm.
babies can survive. So we really, it's important to reduce that stigma. We can breastfeed
Absolutely.
anywhere. The Indiana law for breastfeeding states that public breastfeeding states that a woman may breastfeed anywhere that she has a right to be.
Mhm.
And
Good.
so that is very important. There's no
Mhm.
shame in
Mhm.
nursing your baby.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah,
on that note, I want to thank you, Lisa. Thank you for joining us this afternoon or today. I truly appreciate it. I absolutely adore you. And
thank you
I
so
will,
much.
as a point of personal privilege, at the very beginning, you talked about how you like to cook. You do. And you're a really great cook, by the way. So
Thank you.
your cooking is phenomenal. So you are a Renaissance woman. Like I said, we go way back to our college years, in fact.
College days.
And so I know the journey that you've been on, and you are just an amazing human being, and so grateful that you are on this planet and walking amongst us, and for all that you're doing to make the world a better place, just one stone at a time. So
Thank you
appreciative
so
of you.
much. I
Thank you.
appreciate you for connecting. and
Absolutely.
finding a way to bring this to the forefront. It's an important conversation. It's really hard to do within 30 minutes because
Yeah.
we
All
can
over.
be
I know.
all over.
I know.
So I really do appreciate the opportunity to open that dialogue. So
Okay.
thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. We'll have you back soon. We'll have you back
Thank
again.
you.
All
All right.
righty. So there you heard it here, from Lisa Diamond, lactation specialist. And I encourage us all this month and every month of the year to think about what we need to do or what we can do to improve the health of our children and improve the health of women. And breastfeeding can be that pathway for you as it pertains to breast cancer, because it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Do remember to seek the guidance of your medical provider, but breast cancer is not off the table for you, possibly. But make sure, once again, you speak with a doctor who can give you that critical guidance that you need, with respect to your breast health. So thank you again for joining us on another episode of How They See Us. And make sure you watch us on LinkedIn, YouTube, and on Facebook as well. And we'll check you out in November. Take care.